Okay. So have you ever like had that feeling where you just, something's not right?
Oh, yeah.
Like something's off,
Right.
but nobody believes you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of the feeling we're dealing with in this book, Wolves on the Walls by Neil Gaiman.
Right.
Um, and it's so interesting because we've got a whole bunch of stuff to dive into.
We
Like
do.
we have a good overview of the story. We have some character descriptions. We have,
Some
um,
thematic analysis, too, looking at
Mwah.
some of the deeper meanings.
Yes, exactly.
And we've got some core biographical info about Neil Gaiman himself.
Exactly. So we're going to try to bring all this together for you today in this deep dive of Wolves on the Walls.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it should be fun.
It's a great book.
Let's start with Lucy.
Okay.
She's obviously the main character here.
Right.
The one who hears these sounds in the walls,
Uh-huh.
and she just knows
Yes.
it's wolves.
She's unwavering.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And one of the things I thought was really interesting was in a play adaptation,
Oh, yeah, I read about that.
she's the only puppet with legs.
But that's such a striking visual, isn't it?
I know.
It really sets her apart from the other characters
It does.
who are kind of stuck in their ways,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit static in their thinking.
Yes. And Lucy's not having it.
No, she's ready to take action.
Yes, exactly. And this is where her little friend Pig Puppet comes in.
Yeah, pig puppet, that's a key part of the story.
It is. It's just a toy,
Right.
a stuffed animal.
But it's so much more than that to Lucy.
It is. It's her confidant.
Her companion.
She tells it all her worries and
Yeah.
everything. I thought it was really cute that it was inspired
I
by
know, I read that too.
Neil Gaiman's friend's son.
It's like a little piece of real life.
I know, woven into the story.
I love those kinds of details.
Me too. And then at the very end, Pig Puppet kind of talks back to her.
It does. It's this wonderful moment
Yeah.
where,
You're not sure what's real
right.
and what's not.
Like, is it her imagination?
Yeah,
Is it actually happening?
Yeah.
It just leaves you wondering.
it does. So, okay, we've got Lucy, who's hearing these wolves, and she's telling everybody.
Right.
Now let's talk about her family.
Okay.
We've got mom
Mom, dad, and brother.
and brother, yes.
Yeah.
And dad plays the tuba.
Yeah, I love that little detail.
Isn't that great?
That
It just,
makes him so quirky.
yes, it does.
Mm.
And they all kind of gang up on Lucy.
They're united in their skepticism.
They are. And they keep saying this line, if the wolves come out of the walls, then it's all over.
Right.
Almost like
A warning.
yeah, but they don't even really believe it.
No, they think it's just a silly saying.
Yeah, like impossible.
But it sets up this great tension.
It does.
Because as the reader or the
Yeah.
listener,
Yes.
you're thinking, oh, but what if they do come out of the walls?
Exactly. And it kind of makes you think, too, about just life in general.
Yeah.
When you're really worried about something.
And no one takes you seriously.
Exactly. Like, have you ever felt like that?
Oh, absolutely.
Where you're like, I know this is a problem, and
And everyone's just brushing you off, like you're being silly or overreacting.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they're doing to Lucy.
Yeah. They're not really listening to her.
No. And then guess what?
What?
The wolves come out of the walls.
They do.
It's like the worst possible thing.
Can you imagine?
I know the sources describe the family as being like totally panicked.
Yeah, they're freaking out.
Understandably so.
They're trying to figure out how to escape.
Yes.
They talk about building a grass hut,
A grass hut.
a hot air balloon.
So random.
I know it's almost comical,
It is.
but also kind of terrifying.
Yes, because there are wolves. Like,
Running around their house.
I know.
It's a crazy situation.
It is. And in all this chaos, Lucy has this idea.
Okay, what did you come up with?
It is brilliant. She says, well, if the wolves came out of the walls,
Uh-huh.
we should go into the walls.
Oh, wow.
I know.
She's facing her fear head on.
She is. She's going right into the wolves' den.
That's so brave.
It is. And the crazy thing is, the family goes along with it.
Really?
They do. They get in the walls.
Uh-huh.
They make all this noise.
To scare the wolves.
Yes. And it works.
No way.
It does. They scare the wolves away.
Wow.
And you know what else we learn?
What's that?
The wolves were scared too,
Oh, that's a cool twist.
isn't it?
Yeah, like they weren't these big, bad, scary creatures after all.
Right. They were just as afraid as the family was.
Exactly. It kind of humanizes them a little bit.
It does. It's like we all have our fears,
Even wolves.
even wolves.
Uh-huh.
So they get their house back.
Okay.
Everything's kind of back to normal.
So it's a happy ending?
You would think. But then
Ah.
Lucy hears something else in the walls.
Oh, no, not again.
It sounds like
What is it this time?
an elephant about to sneeze.
Oh, my goodness.
I know.
What does she do?
Well, the story ends with her, like, wondering if she should even tell her family.
Oh, that's interesting.
Isn't it?
Like, has she given up on them believing her?
I think so.
That's kind of sad.
It is. So Wolves in the Walls, it's clearly more than just a scary story for kids.
Right.
There's a lot going on here.
A lot of deeper meaning.
Yes. One of the things our sources talk about is this idea of belief versus knowledge.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Lucy believes in the wolves.
Mm-hmm.
Her family says no, that's not possible.
It's not logical.
Exactly. And Gaiman really makes you think about,
What we choose to believe.
yeah, and who we trust.
Absolutely.
Like, why do we believe some things and not others?
Right. Like, is it because we've seen proof?
Yeah.
Or is it just because someone we trust told us it's true?
Exactly. And sometimes the people we think are the most knowledgeable.
Can be wrong.
Exactly.
And the people who seem the least knowledgeable,
like children.
yeah, can actually have a better grasp on the truth.
Yes. And this book really makes you think about that.
It does. It challenges our assumptions.
It does. Okay. Another big theme that runs through this story
Okay.
is bravery.
Bravery. Okay.
Because Lucy, she is so scared.
Of course.
But she keeps doing things.
Even though she's terrified.
Yes. Like warning her family.
Right.
Going into the walls to save Pig Puppet.
Yeah, she's not letting fear stop her.
Exactly. And this is a great takeaway for all of us.
What do you mean?
Well, it's like
Yeah.
bravery isn't about not being scared.
It's about doing what needs to be done.
Yes.
Even when you're afraid.
Exactly. And sometimes facing your fear.
It can make it less scary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we can all learn from Lucy's example.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. What else have we got?
Well, let's talk about imagination for a minute.
Okay.
Because the story really plays with this idea.
Of what's real and what's imagined.
Exactly. Like with Pig Puppet.
Right.
Lucy talks to Pig Puppet.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a real person.
And for her, it is.
It is, but her family doesn't really understand that.
They see it as just a toy.
Yeah. And makes you think about.
How adults sometimes dismiss children's imaginations,
Yes.
when actually imagination is so important.
It is.
It helps us to be creative,
Yes.
to solve problems.
And to understand the world.
Exactly. And in Lucy's case,
Her imagination helps her to see the truth.
that the adults are missing.
Exactly. So the book is kind of saying.
Don't underestimate the power of imagination.
Exactly. And another thing that really resonated with me
What's that?
was just the feeling of being misunderstood.
Oh, yeah.
Because Lucy keeps trying to tell her family about the wolves.
And they don't believe her.
They don't. And it's so frustrating.
It is. And I think we've all felt that way at some point. Like no one's listening to us.
Or taking us seriously.
Exactly.
And it can be a really lonely feeling.
It can.
So the book kind of reminds us.
To listen to each other.
Yes.
And to try to understand where other people are coming from.
Especially kids.
Yes.
Because they have important things to say too.
Absolutely. And even though the family doesn't believe Lucy at first.
Mm-hmm. They do come together in the end.
They do.
Yeah.
When the wolves are actually out of the walls.
Yes. They have to work together.
To solve the problem.
To survive. And it shows that even when families disagree.
There's still that bond.
Yes, that love and support.
That helps them through tough times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we can't forget the biggest lesson of all.
What's that?
Trust your instincts.
Oh, yeah.
Lucy knew something was wrong.
She had that gut feeling.
Yes, and she was right.
So the book is saying,
listen to your inner voice.
Even when other people doubt you.
Exactly. Because you might just be right.
You never know. So overall, Wolves in the Walls.
It's a really interesting story.
It is. And one of the things our sources point out is that it can be seen as a modern fairy tale.
Oh, yeah.
With Lucy as the brave heroine.
Facing her fears.
Exactly. And the wolves.
Could represent like our inner demons.
Yeah. The things that scare us.
Or the things that we're trying to ignore.
Exactly. So it's like a metaphor for life.
Yes.
We all have wolves in our walls.
We do. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about Neil Gaiman.
Okay.
The author of the book.
The mastermind.
He's such a fascinating guy.
He is. He's written so many amazing books.
I know. And he was born in 1960.
Okay.
And apparently he loved fantasy books as a kid.
Really?
Which makes sense.
Yeah, given the kinds of stories he writes.
Right. Like he's got this incredible imagination.
He does.
And did you know that the idea for Wolves in the Walls
Uh-huh.
actually came from a nightmare his daughter had?
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
I know.
What a real-life inspiration for the story.
I know. And speaking of his other books,
Yeah.
he's written so many great ones.
He has. For both kids and adults.
Like Coraline
The Graveyard Book.
American Gods.
Stardust.
And he doesn't just write books.
No, he's done comics, graphic novels, even screenplays.
Yeah, he's a really talented guy.
A true storyteller.
So if you liked Wolves in the Walls,
And you want to read more?
our sources have some great suggestions.
They do.
If you want to stick with Neil Gaiman,
Okay.
there's The Day I Swapped My Dad for 2 Goldfish.
That sounds hilarious.
I know. And then there's Coraline.
A little bit darker.
Yes.
Yeah.
And The Graveyard Book.
Which one in Newberry Metal?
It did. And then there's Fortunately the Milk.
Which is just pure silliness.
It is.
But really imaginative.
And if you want to branch out a little,
Okay.
there's some other great books with similar themes.
Like Creepy Carrots?
Ooh, that one's creepy.
It is. It's about a rabbit who's being stalked by carrots.
Oh, no.
I know. And then there's The Skull,
Okay.
which is about a boy who finds a skull and it starts talking to him.
So spooky.
And that is not a good idea.
I love that time.
It's a really funny book
Okay.
with a great twist.
What about books about bravery?
Oh, yeah, there's I Will Fight Monsters for You.
That sounds awesome.
It's really sweet. It's about a girl who's afraid of monsters, but her dad promises to fight them for her.
Yeah.
And then there's Julia's House for Lost Creatures,
Okay.
which is about a girl who opens her home to all sorts of strange and wonderful creatures.
Oh, wow.
And they have all these crazy adventures together.
That sounds fun.
It is. And for a different take on the wolf story, there's Lan Po Po, a Red Riding Hood story from China.
I've never heard of that one.
It's a really beautiful book
Okay.
with stunning illustrations.
Oh, and speaking of illustrations, we can't forget to mention the amazing pictures in Wolves on the Walls.
By Dave McKean.
Yes, they're so unique.
They really are. They perfectly capture the mood of the story.
Yes. Like sometimes they're
Fun
fun.
as they're scary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're just so different from anything you've ever seen before.
They're like works of art in themselves.
They are. So overall, Wolves in the Walls.
It's a great book.
It's a story about a girl who hears wolves in the walls.
But it's also so much more than that.
It's about believing in yourself,
Facing your fears.
the power of imagination,
And the importance of family.
and it leaves you with a lot to think about
It does. Like, when have you felt certain about something?
that no one else believed.
Exactly. Or how do you deal with your own inner wolves?
Those are good questions.
They are.
So thank you for suggesting this book for our deep dive.
It's been a pleasure discussing it with you.
It has. And to all our listeners,
Keep listening to those inner voices.
you never know, they might just lead you to something amazing.
Or at least to a good book.
Exactly.